Welcome to the Varside Spurs podcast, coming to you all the way from the Varside Arms. I'm Lee, and joining me in our beer garden for a drink is Steve. How are you, Steve?
Yeah, good, thanks. Not bad at all.
And also we have Sarah. How are you, Sarah?
I'm pretty good, guys. Thank you very much.
And then we have Simon.
All right, how's it going?
Good. And the one and only Theo Delaney. How are you, Theo?
I'm good. I'm very excited to be here in the Varside Arms. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, well, enjoy a pint with us anytime.
Lovely.
So I thought we'd go straight on because there's a lot to chat about, I should imagine. And we'll start with the Rennes game, which was 2-2. We had a Bardet own goal and Højbjerg equaliser later on. My thoughts on the game were that these guys are no mugs. They beat the Goons 3-1 a couple of years back, didn't they, in the Champions League? And I think they were in the Champions League last year. So it was quite clearly the trickiest match of the group stage. I thought we played pretty well, actually, overall, with a fairly makeshift side. So I just wondered what your thoughts on the Rennes game was, and specifically on the team selection, Steve.
I can't remember the team selection. I meant to look it up. I didn't have time. Sorry. But I do know that I don't hold with this theory, that because we're a Premier League team, every other team is like, that we're not particularly familiar with is shit. And that seems to be the case. They say, well, Rennes, they're not PSG. They're in a farmers league, allegedly, and they're not PSG, so they must be shit. Now, Rennes held PSG to a draw at the back end of last season, and I watched the game and they looked pretty decent. And that guy up top gave Kimpembe and all of them a torrid time. He's a battering ram for them up there, and and we had the same issue, and we didn't have Dyer to call on, who, as I said, I think I said in the last pod, we never would have thought that Dyer would be the linchpin around which we're kind of basing our defence. But he wasn't available, and as you say, it's the trickiest tie that we should have in the group, and a point away from home, in Europe, should be considered a good result, really.
Absolutely.
So.
I mean, and I think when I was saying that, the makeshift team, but that defence had really not played together before, and subsequently, they're a bit of a mishmash at the back there. So I thought they coped pretty well overall. What were your thoughts, Theo?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people getting really negative on social media. Nothing new there, but I thought it was a really watchable game, really good game. I thought they looked like a really good side, and why? I agree totally. Why wouldn't they be? I mean, they're a proper, French top flight side, and you go away from home to somewhere like that, you should expect to have a decent game, and it was the most difficult game of the group. Nice to get it out of the way. We played well in parts. They dominated for spells, but they're the home side, and as I say, they're a proper team. And there were loads of things. I really enjoyed it, and I came away feeling pretty positive. I was really encouraged, and Ndombele finally turning up for work and doing some good things. I was encouraged by Brian. I thought he played pretty well, and I mean, also when you consider all the disruption and the players that were still in Croatia, the Croatia 3 and all that, I thought it was very more than acceptable. I thought it was a good game and a good result.
Yep, that sounds like a Madness song, doesn't it? The Croatia 3. Return of the Croatia 3.
Yeah.
Are you going to henceforth refer to Brian Hill as just Brian?
Yeah, that's what it's got on his shirt, isn't it? So I thought it saves you having to work out with the correct pronunciation of, is it Hill, Gill, Hill? I don't know. I'm just going to say Brian. There's an Arctic Monkeys song that starts, Brian, 4 marks for not trying. I think that's right. Which let's hope that doesn't turn into his chant.
He definitely seems like a trier.
Yeah,
but they're Champions League regulars, right? So I mean, What were your thoughts there, Simon?
So didn't get to see the whole game. I watched some of the highlights, but I think what Theo was just talking about is right. If you look at if you think about yesterday as well. So I'm no doubt that Nuno wanted to try and keep some players, off the pitch so that he could have put out the squad yesterday that he wanted to put out. You look down the list of the team sheet, and you've got, as you say, lots of new blood in there. He's got to try and build a second team out of it. I don't disagree. A point away from home with what is potentially the hardest game is good, as long as you can then convert it into a full win on the reverse leg. And of course, he's got to test out what formation works and find something that works, because as we make it hopefully through the latter stages of the group phase and then maybe into the knockouts, he's got to find something that works, because otherwise he's got one. He's only got one selection, and he's also got the Prem to do, and he's got two other competitions on top of that to do. So I think it was a sensible thing for him to try and see if he could fashion a second team out of it. And as you say, there's some hope there. It's almost it's that Rubik's Cube thing where new manager, new people, we've got to trying to work out what works.
Yeah, absolutely. So a 2-2, a decent result. Would you say we should have expected better, Sarah, or is that about right?
I mean, I think yes, on the face of it, it's not a bad result away from home, but I understand why people are frustrated, and it's just that we've been expecting a bit more, wanting a bit more from the squad and the team, and it sort of feels like we still haven't got any better. And I think that's where the frustration's coming from. Certainly for myself, I watch us and I just think, God, we seem to be going backwards. Like, we don't seem to be progressing. And I think that's why there's such short tempers on Twitter at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily that result. It's the frustration of the promise of what the new stadium came, the squad that we developed, and then we sort of seem to have. We've not only stood still, we've actually got worse while others around us have got better. And I think that's it. I think that's the anger, not that people can necessarily communicate it like that very well on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. But I like Theo was saying, I did see signs there, and we'll come on to that in Chelsea as well. But there's signs there that we were being a bit more progressive and attacking. So anyone else think that they kind of spotted signs of that, like something that's a positive going forward? Steve?
I think like what Theo said, I think for me, I guess if you're going to try and take any positives out of that, I think the positive was Dembele getting his his first start, I think, or whatever, and actually looking like, first of all, that he could play. Secondly, that he actually looked for a long while that he had an interest in the game. He didn't just sort of he was working forward and working backwards, and that's one of the things, obviously, that he's been criticised for a lot in the past. I thought he showed us that creativity that really we were lacking in other games. So I think that was something kind of to take forward into the or for us to look ahead to in the next game or two.
Did you see Mbappe's comments basically taking the piss out of Tanguy, saying, I absolutely knew you would put a show reel together of your highlights from that match. He's like, he's just hinting that he's got one of the biggest egos going, but if that, all power to him, if he is some talent. He just
isn't that sorry to cut across you, Lee, but isn't that I mean, isn't that part of our problem? We didn't win the game, and he might have done a few bits and bobs in the game, but to put together like a video of clips from a game that we actually didn't win, it kind of smacks of like, what the fuck's going on? We didn't win the game. Surely you want to be, showing like the good things that you've done, in a game that we won. It's like he might as well, put together some of the stuff that he did on Sunday, which we'll come on to. Because I mean, he was good in that game as well. But so it's not about individual. It's the sort of thing that when
rumoured to be in the market for somebody. Somebody finds a YouTube montage of a player's best bits and go, look at him, he's brilliant. We definitely have him. It's like, yeah, okay, great, but when he was playing, we never won a fucking game. So, what do you do with that? As you say,
I suppose you can read it a couple of ways, can't you? You know, either he's saying, right, this is me, shop window already for January, or he's saying basically, I'm really pleased, I'm really proud that I'm playing again, and look at me.
Yeah. Fair?
I think it's the former, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
I think it's him, you know, putting his show reel out.
But I think you just time it better, don't you? I think, you know, by all means, get that sort of thing together.
He might be waiting a long time for a win, though.
Wednesday's not that long to wait, Sarah. I mean, you know, Wednesday's not that long to wait.
We'll come on to those, but yeah, Wednesday and Sunday, yeah. So I was going to ask or mention the D word, Doherty, because what a fucking shit show that was. I mean, am I overstating it, thinking that actually that was one of the worst performances, assist aside, that I'd seen from a Spurs player for quite a while? I mean, maybe I'm over egging the pudding here, but for me, that was a bit of a shocker. Theo?
Yeah, Doherty just hasn't worked out at all, has he? And he's not getting any better. But I mean, you know, I think with a lot of his situation has been the same right from the start. He can't get a run of games. It's chicken and egg. Can't get a run of games, so he can't get his form. Can't get himself into any good form, and that's the way it is. So, you know, if he'd been given 20 games at some point, or even 10, he might have played himself into form. But he's one of those signings that doesn't look like he's going to work out at all. And I think they would have let him go if they could have. Someone had come in for him. He's probably on a great contract because of the age that he was and everything. And he was into his last year at Wolves. So he's probably on fabulous wages, like 60 grand a week or something. And no one's going to pay him that anywhere else. So it's slightly stuck with him. And the thing also about him is that everybody knows that when he was impressive, what built his reputation was he was playing as a right wing back, to the side of a back three. And we just don't play like that. We hardly played like that under Mourinho. And the irony is that he made that reputation under Nuno. And then Nuno just changed his mind on that last year at Wolves. He started playing a 4 and he's playing a 4 now. He shows no signs of playing a 3. So I think that's the other thing. They can't even play him in his position because that position doesn't exist in this team. And it didn't really exist last year either. So, yeah, I feel a bit sorry for him about basically you have to file him under waste of money, I'm afraid.
It's hardly it. The trouble is, though, there's not really any room for sympathy now, is there? Because we've got so much to do and to sort out. And I think, as a person, you have to feel sorry for him. But he must have thought when Nuno came in, bingo, this guy's going to make me probably a linchpin of this team now. But it just really hasn't worked out that way, is it? Any thoughts, Sarah, on what you thought of Doherty?
I think it's a system thing. I think that's probably part of our problem is that we haven't quite found the right formula with this squad of players, and we're missing a bit of creativity. I think I just think we've got a lot of good players, but we seem to have too many square pegs and round holes, or vice versa, or whatever the saying is. But yeah, I think he doesn't suit a back 4 because I don't think he's defensively strong enough, and we're not playing to his strengths, which is getting forward and putting crosses into the box. And even when he is doing that, Harry tends to be sitting on the edge of the area at the moment because lack of creativity in the middle. He's trying to, look after that instead of score goals. And I think that's Harry's problem at the moment as well.
We had quite a few injuries actually before the game and a few in the game as well. So that was a bit of a worry. But do you think this is kind of this period is showing our lack of strength in depth, Steve? Or do you think that we're just being plain unlucky?
I think been a bit unlucky, really. And now that you mention it, it does come back to me because Rennes were really going through us like a hot knife through butter, and seemed to get away with a hell of a lot. So I'm not. The Doherty thing is interesting because he's wing backs. I mean, how old is he? 28? Is he 27, 28? I don't know how old he is, but the wing back sort of role has only really been popular maybe for 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 if I'm being generous. So what was he before? Because he must have been either a fullback or a winger. He can't have been a wing back his